Welcome to the Handzame Classic in Belgium, the 1.1 UCI event covering 199 kilometers today, starting in the north of the country along the coast before traveling southwest, kicking inland and then finishing in the village of Handzame. This is the 14th edition of this particular race. A very, very good field indeed. 5 World Tour teams here today, 10 Pro Continental teams and 10 Continental teams too. For the last 14 editions, well, for the last 13 editions, this race had ended up in a bunch sprint. Extremely flat, windy parcours, favouring the sprinters. Welcome back to the Handzame Classic. As you can see by that gentleman just bowling down the gentle finishing straight, we do not have any pictures at the moment. Welcome back to the Handzame Classic. Unfortunately, at the present time, we do not have any pictures. That's why we're seeing that gentleman just bowling down the finishing straight. The riders today in the Handzame Classic will be facing this finish on 3 occasions. The 3rd time through will be the finish line. And just before we did come on air, we saw the juniors finishing. A big blanket finish for that race. And again, for the last 13 editions of this race, it has been a bunch sprint, favouring the sprinters. Very, very flat parcours, but a typically Belgian day out there today. And as soon as we can get pictures to you, we'll obviously give you them. But earlier on in the day, we had a breakaway of 2 riders, Tom de Rent of Wanty Group Goubert of Belgium, and he was accompanied by Gijs van Hoek of Topsport Vlaanderen Balois. We do understand from information we're getting out on the road, they have been mopped up, and all the bunch is together. And as I say, as soon as we've got some pictures for you, we'll drop them in. But alongside me for the day, Brian Smith, former national road race champion. Brian, again, this is a relatively new race on the calendar. On Wednesday, you had Nokkerkurs, a surprise winner in that particular race. But these 2 races quite important in relation to preparing riders for the classics in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, maybe not got the best field as we would see in the classics. Obviously, you've got Milan San Remo tomorrow down in Italy. So the situation we're facing now is it gives a lot of riders the opportunity. It's, you know, it's hard racing. There's 5 cobble sectors, 3 laps at the end, and you know, look at the palmarès of the previous winners. It's there's some good winners of this race, and I'm pretty sure the Belgians and the French will want to race this out. But hopefully we'll get some pictures a little bit later, and we'll bring the live action to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, we will be getting some action. We're going to take a break now. We will be back in around 40 minutes time. In the meantime, we're going to have some other programming for you, but we will be back with live coverage of the Handzame Classic very shortly, in about 40 minutes, all being well. So please stick with us on Eurosport 2, and in around half an hour's time, we'll be back, hopefully with some live action for you. Welcome to the Handzame Classic, the 14th edition of this race, over 199 kilometres under typically grey, leaden Belgian skies. And again, this is the Napoleon Games Cycling Cup, the Belgian trophy, as it were. This is the 2nd event of that particular series, the first of which was the GP at Les Samin, and this is the Handzame Classic. Points allocated, and the most points at the end of the series will come out the winner. We've just got helicopter shots at the moment. Hopefully we'll get some pictures from the road as soon as possible. There is the situation at the head of affairs. Nicky Terpstra heads the rankings from Etixx-QuickStep. Scott Thwaites of Bora Argon 18, the British rider, in 2nd. But you'll notice the unusual points distribution. That's because points just aren't added over the finish line. There are hotspot sprints throughout the race. And on the final 3 finishing circuits today, there's a very small climb called the Roydensberg, and the points will be awarded there as well. And again, here's the roll of honour for the last few years. As you can see, Gianni Meersman last year, Luca Mesgets, Kenny De Haas, Francesco Cicci, Robert Wagner, Danilo Napolitano, he's riding today, Johanna Hutarovic, Hans Dekkers, Robbie McEwen. And the first edition was won famously by Johan Museeuw. This is the riders at the start line, And again, unusual history, this particular race. First held in 2002, was actually part of the Driedags West Vlaanderen, the 3 days of West Flanders, until 2010. Well, in 2011, in fact, it turned into a single-day race. So an unusual genesis for this particular race. There's the Belgian road champion, Preben van Hek. So the riders in good spirits at the start of the race. And Team Sky sending a pretty decent team to this particular race. Andrew Fenn, Christian Knees, Gianni Meersman. He was in the top 10 a couple of days ago at the Nokkerkoers, which incidentally was won by Timothy Dupont of Verandas Willems. And he's here today, but significantly, as well as the race itself, which is flagged off earlier on today under grey skies. It's a first race back for Chris Buckmans of Lotto Soudal. Many of you remember that awful crash he had. Nearly a life-threatening crash, in fact, but it's good to see him back on his bike. And as is traditional in Belgian racing, the Etixx went from the gun. And this is the winner of the Nokkerkoers just at the back there, Timothy Dupont, looking pretty relaxed. But the course today started up in Bredene, skirted around the edge of Ostend, and then took a southwesterly route along the coast, very exposed, windy conditions. And then at Vern, the race swung left, heading in a southerly direction around the town of Popperinge, then swings left, skirting Ypres, before heading into the finish. 3 circuits of Handzame, and there's the route itself. Well, that's not the route, sorry, that's the scattering of races, and here is the route that I've just described to you. Starting up in the north, heading in a southwesterly direction, south, and then back northeast to the finish in Handzame. Not too many climbs en route. There are 5 small sections of pavé, and there is a finishing climb on the finishing circuit, sorry, the Roydensberg, to be covered on 3 occasions. The 3 finishing laps, 15.82 kilometres. We've had a very aggressive, fast race from the off. We had 2 riders who went away early on, had a lead of 3 minutes. Tom de Vrendt of Wanty Group Goubert and Gijs van der Hoek of Topsport Vlaanderen. But this, finally we have live pictures, and this is our 7-man breakaway. I can tell you that Jay McCarthy, the 23-year-old Australian, is here. Or is he? Has there been another change of scene by the looks of things? There you go, that's the composition of this group. Rob Rugg of Kruilan Vast Good Service is there. Gianni Meersman of Seabell Sebon, a team actually sponsored by Clementines. Gianni Meersman, Marcus Hoogland is also there. Dan Patton of Team Wiggins also in the mix. And number 65 there, just rolling through, is Jonas Rijkaard. And number 21 there is Marcin Biliablocki, the Polish rider. Very, very good rouleur for One Pro Cycling. And sat beside me, not rolling through just yet, is Brian Smith, the former British road champion himself. A very experienced campaigner out on the roads of Belgium. Before we came on air, we were reminiscing about what it's like to race in Belgium. And Brian, it certainly is a unique location to race, isn't it?
It's a hard race, 1.1 level, so it's you know, a good race for some of the smaller teams to get involved with. As you see, Topsport Vlaanderen are here. You know, obviously they are a kind of dominant force within British cycling, both Belgian cycling. British cycling have their 2nd division team here, Biliablocki representing the One Pro Cycling. This is a young joker team from Norway in the dark blue. They produced a very good result in the Nokkerkoers by finishing 2nd by their 19-year-old rider. Today they've got Hulgaard in the breakaway, 21-year-old, just doing his turn at the front. There was originally 2 riders in front. They got a maximum of 3 minutes advantage. Then it all came back together, and now we've got a 7-man break. We have been told that there is 2 riders chasing in between the gap at the moment. We don't know if they've been brought back by the peloton yet, but Martinelli of Etixx and Nikolaev of Gazprom are apparently still between, but we haven't seen or heard anything yet in the last few minutes.
Well, there's a great shot of the bunch just passing through. Interestingly, the composition of the breakaway, we did get information that Jay McCarthy was in that initial move, and Brian, he doesn't appear to be there at the moment in that very distinctive Tinkoff kit. But if that isn't the case, and it doesn't appear to be so, there's no World Tour teams represented in this particular breakaway. The World Tour teams that are here, as we've alluded to, Etixx-QuickStep are here with last year's winner Gianni Meersman. Lotto Soudal are here. Chris Bokelman's first race back. Don't be expecting too much of a stellar performance from him, but they've got Tosh van der Sande, a very, very fast finisher on board. Tinkoff are here. They're going to be looking after their 2 young Slovakian sprinters in the form of Erik Baska and Michal Kolar as we head towards the back of the peloton. Team Lotto NL Jumbo are also here, and they've got their fast man at Dylan Groenewegen riding for them. He was 3rd a couple of days ago on Wednesday in the Nokkerkoerse race. Team Sky are here. Andrew Fenn, Danny van Poppel, and Gianni Meersman just finished inside the top 10 as well at the Nokkerkoerse, so he's clearly going okay. So there's your 5 World Tour teams, and then we have 10 Pro Continental teams, 1-2 Group Gubert, Topsport Vlaanderen, Balois, 1 Pro Cycling, represented in that breakaway we saw a few moments ago with Marcin Bilibowski, Nippo, Vini, Fantini. Stolting Service Group, the new German squad that was founded out of the ashes of the Colt Energy racing team, and they've got Gerard Ciolek in their number. Just look out for them in the white kit, and the team on the front at the moment is Nippo, Vini, Fantini, just driving hard. They've got Edward Michael Grossu, the Romanian rider, who's very, very fast finisher indeed. Perhaps they're looking after him. Also here, Gazprom Rosvelo, Roompop Orange Peloton from the Netherlands, Team Roth and Bora Argon 18, CCC Sprandi, Pogavici, and that's rounding out all your Pro Continental squad. So and then we have another 10 Continental teams. So a real interesting mix, Brian, in this particular race.
Yeah, I would say that most of the World Tour teams are here to give some of the riders a race. We can see from Nokkerkoerse that obviously the World Tour teams never got it their own way. It's always difficult, you know, the lower level race, especially in Belgium. You can never predict it. It's not being controlled by the World Tour teams, and as we can see here, there's absolutely no World Tour teams in the front group of 7 riders. Great to see Dan Payton, who pretty much is fairly experienced at riding here in Belgium, and you know, he's done so for so many years in the Wiggins team with Sky on his on the back of his jersey. But it's going to be a difficult race today, very difficult to control, small roads, and the big teams are not obviously being given their own way here.
They certainly aren't. They are being forced to chase. Some lovely aerial shots. It can be quite bleak, but within that bleakness there's a certain beauty and charm about Belgium. I personally used to absolutely love racing here, especially if the legs were good. But we saw a few spots of rain on the camera earlier on. There you go, Dan Patton there, just on the left-hand side in that Wiggins kit, opting for leg warmers, indicating that conditions certainly aren't balmy, and the rider just on the back of the group there, Michael Rees, opting for over the knees. And many riders at this point in the race still have their full leg warmers on. They've got their gilets on, but of course they do have to lift up their jerseys so the race commissaires can see their numbers. And then the rider just swinging to the back there, number 214, Marcus Holgaard, the 21-year-old Norwegian. And they have, as you said, a very, very strong team. They're a team that's been around for a number of years, Joker, aren't they? And they really do produce some great riders.
They have, and one of probably the most famous riders to come from the Joker team would be Edvard Boasson-Hagen. But so many of the riders have come from that team, gone on to you know, World Tour teams. So there's a lot of good riders coming through the ranks in Norway, especially through this team. And you know, Edvald still supports it. He's Edvald's manager, and one of the guys, actually the organizer of the Tour of Norway, actually manages this Joker team. So it's great to be part of. It's great to see the Norwegians coming through, and you know, they've got 2 riders right at the top of the rankings with Edvald Boasson-Hagen and Kristoff.
They certainly have, and another rider to come from the Joker team. I remember a few years back, Lars Petter Nordhaug as well rode for that team. Then went to Team Sky, crossed to Belkin, and is now back, of course, with Team Sky. But it's Lotto NL Jumbo, the team from the Netherlands, just riding at the front now. It's lifting this tempo, just under 50 k's to go, and the lead hovering at around a minute, but the front group working really well. And there's that familiar arrowhead we get at the front of the peloton. And they'll be reaching the circuit in about 15 kilometers time. And as we said before, they then commence 3 circuits of just under 16 kilometers. But again, primarily flat. There is a small climb, and there will be points awarded towards the Napoleon Games Cycling Cup. But whether any of the riders in the front are particularly interested in that, it remains to be seen. long straight road. The riders in the breakaway currently out of sight, and it's still Nipoello Fantini setting the tempo on the front. So just under 50 kilometres to go now. The lead hovering at around a minute. The bunch happy to set an even rhythm on the front. The orange and blue of Nipoello Fantini just rolling through. They've got a little bit of assistance from Team Sky. And as we said, the last 13 editions of this race all have come down to a bunch sprint. And again, although things can change, Brian, from time to time, races do have a certain identity, and it does look, although we can't predict just yet, it's an interesting composition out front, but I think significantly because there's no World Tour riders in that breakaway, it's going to be very difficult for that move to stick, isn't it?
Oh, looking at the front of the peloton, I think Team Sky putting one rider up there. You can see Etixx in the blue coming towards the front, but it's Vini Fantini that's doing a lot of the riding at the moment, and you know, they had a 9th place with Grosu, the Romanian rider that's riding for them in Knockrakurs, but so many riders, you know, probably a faster sprinter. And obviously towards the end of Knockrakurs, the riders in yellow from Lotto NL Jumbo were trying to set it up for Groenewegen, and unfortunately he only got 3rd. But I think this, you know, it was a very difficult cobbled uphill finish in Knockrakurs. This suits him down to the ground, and I would think that Groenewegen, the winner of Paris-Brussels last year, would be pretty much set for a good win here in this 1.1 race. He won in Ruta del Sol as well, a stage. So I think looking at the form guides and this type of race, the riders in yellow will be keen to keep this all together. 7-man breakaway at this stage with just under 50 k's to go, and this is the maximum advantage they've had, Matt, 57 seconds, so they have to keep it under control. They
certainly do. They don't want to let this lead stretch out too much. Still Nipoello Fantini on the front. You can just see the white, black and pale blue kit of One Pro Cycling, the newly formed, or not newly formed, newly pro-continental British team, and amongst their number we have Marcin Biliablocki. We know he's in the breakaway. Karol Domulgalski, Polish rider, came across from Rally, the most famous rider without a shadow of a doubt. As we just fly over a rather beautiful old windmill is Matt Goss, the former winner of Milan-San Remo, who was asked before the start if this was anything like the Milan-San Remo that he's won, because I understand this race has a nickname as the Belgian Primavera, which is quite interesting. But it'll be interesting to see if Matt Goss gets in the mix at the finish. Chris Opie, I think, is the rider that could finish best for them if it came down to a bunch sprint. The rider from Cornwall, very, very fast finisher indeed. And again, there's the composition of the breakaway. Number 197 at the back, Rob Joop, 29 years of age, of the Netherlands. Creelan Vast Good Service is a team that we see frequently riding the cyclocross scene in Belgium. And some very, very good cyclocross riders, and many of the Belgian teams, as well as riding on the road, riding the cross. And here we go, just coming across the line. Little flick of the elbow there. 46 k's to go. Patton just takes over. He'll be familiar with Marcin Biliablocki from riding on the domestic scene in the UK with him. And meanwhile, Sky now join Nipoello Fantini and Lotto on the front. Yeah, when do you think, Brian, we're going to see some other teams assisting with the chase?
I don't think there'll be a lot of panic. There are only 7 riders down the road at 1 minute, so all Team Sky will do is put one rider up. Lotto NL Jumbo in yellow put one rider up. Vini Fantini are helping out. There are other teams willing to help out, and you can see the size of the peloton. You know, we had a few crashes. It was fast and furious early on, and nothing really got away in the first kind of 45 kilometres. It was still all together, and it was quite surprising. But now we're well into this race. By the time these riders cross the line, they've done 151 kilometres, so still quite a few kilometres to go now, 46. Still a lot of teams with pretty much most of the riders still in this race. A large peloton, and we saw the under-23 race finish probably about an hour ago, Matt, and it finished in a complete bunch finish, so this looks as if it's going completely the same way. And you know, there's so many decent sprinters in this race, because we were going through it just before we came on air. Who are the real sprinters? Groenewegen being one of them, Roy Jans from Wanty Group Goubert, but Tosh van der Sande from Lotto Soudal, but I think there's a lot of riders in this peloton believe that they could possibly win this race, because, as I said, there's not a lot of strength and depth with pure sprinters in a sprinters race. So again, anything could happen, but it looks as if Lotto NL Jumbo and Sky are trying to control things. Just keep it round about a minute, because there's still 45 kilometres to go.
Yeah, fair point there. I mean, it must give a lot of the riders from the smaller teams a lot of hope, especially when, you know, a rider of the calibre, not take anything away from a Timothy Dupont of Belgium. As we just see, it's a great shot there of Chris Boekmans just rolling through. I fully understand why the Belgian production team are focused on this rider. What a journey back for him. Quick glance across, looks pretty comfortable. Let's just hope he finishes this race nice and safe. Just on his wheel is the brother of Peter Sagan, Jeroen Sagan of Tinkoff. But the break, you just see the wind now coming from the left-hand side, and this is the kind of formation we see so often in these exposed flatlands of Belgium. Patton just rolling through there on his Pinarello. Lovely looking bike. And then there's the very, very low aerodynamic figure of Marcin Bialobłąski. Incredible rouleur, great time trialist. Please don't go away, we're just going to take a quick commercial break. Welcome back. 56 seconds, or 55 seconds, sorry, is the lead for our breakaway. The bunch being led by Team Sky, well in to the first of 3 laps of this flat finishing circuit, punctuated by the very small climb of the Roidenberg, which is around halfway. Well, it's 9.5 kilometres into the finish circuit. I don't think it will be too much of a test for these riders. They're up it and over it in no time at all. Very flat landscape here, this part of Belgium. But there will be points on offer, as I said, for the rush sprint section of the Napoleon Games Cup of Belgium. This front group working nicely together. Still rolling through every man, Brian, happy to do his turn on the front.
Yeah, they're all totally committed to helping each other. As I said, they're only just gone off the front a few minutes ago, so they're all together now.
Welcome back. 57 seconds is the lead for this group. It's been hovering around a minute for the last 10 or 15 Ks. The bunch being led at the moment by Team Sky and Nippo Vini Fantini. I think it's Javier Zandio off Sky, who's on a domestique duties, just keeping the tempo high at the front. This is Michael Ries of the new Stolting service group from Germany. Again, this team was formed very, very late in the day after the Colt Energy team folded, but thankfully the team back on its feet in a completely new guise. And a good move by Stolting to get somebody in the breakaway means it takes the pressure off the team behind. And I know that they'll be looking after the interests of Gerard Ciolek, former winner of Milan-San Remo, 2 winners of Milan-San Remo actually in this race. The other one riding for One Pro Cycling in the form of Matt Goss. And again, a good position for One Pro to be in. They've got Bialobłąski in the breakaway, a very, very capable rider indeed from Poland. And this group working really, really smoothly. Little flick of the elbow there before the rider from Wiggins rolls through. Dan Patton, he's been around for a few years now, 29 years of age, and here's one of those right turns. I mean, although on this particular circuit, Brian, the riders have an opportunity to see the corners, what about local knowledge? The Belgian riders, they really know these roads, don't they?
Yeah, most of them do, and you can have the local knowledge, but on a circuit like this, I think most of the teams and the riders are probably, you know, living in this area over the last few weeks, so they've probably looked at this finishing circuit, at least, you know, ridden it once or twice, so to give them an indication. But this is only, you know, this race has only been going since the first edition was 2002, so it's a fairly new race. But you're right, they call it the Primavera of the North. The Primavera of the South is tomorrow, Milan-San Remo, but yeah, the conditions here cold, as you see, something most of the riders all kind of wrapped up. But it's going to be a difficult finish for these riders to stay away. It's been kept within a minute. Team Sky and Lotto NL Jumbo are the teams controlling things, and they'll just put 1 or 2 riders in the front, and this gap is just hovering around 1 minute with pretty much 2 or 3 riders riding at the front of the peloton.
You know, this is this Roylenberg climb. It's an intermediate sprint, although it is on a climb, and you can just about tell the road almost imperceptibly goes up. Hardly anything to trouble these riders at all. Extremely flat in this part of Belgium. Of course, this is the West Flanders region, a real heartland of cycling. That's your 10 Ks to go board. And again, the gentle rise just forcing these riders out of the saddle. And it is strange, isn't it, you know, riding in Belgium, because although you've got the Flemish Ardennes and the area around the Tour of Flanders goes, it is extremely hilly. And a great shot there of the flags, the wind blowing from the left-hand side. It's the rider from Belgium just taking the points on the top of the climb. That's Jack Rijkaard of Topsport Vlaanderen, team that's been around for years. Very distinctive kit, very aggressive team, always in the mix, especially in these smaller races. A team I think that really punches above their weight. They'll then wait and get back in the mix. But again, there's a real art form, isn't there, to riding in the wind, Brian, because it's the wind in last year's race ripped this race to pieces. It did all come back together for another bunch sprint, but racing in Belgium, it's like nothing else. Yeah,
it's specialist. The only way to get any experience is by doing it. You know, I can remember my first trip to Belgium, and I was like, you know, blown away with it all. But yeah, you have to experience it. You have to do it. You have to live it. Understand the culture. And you know, some people love Belgium. I know a lot of people that do, and I know a lot of people that don't. And simple as that. But yeah, you have to know the road conditions. You know, the kind of gap in the middle of the roads. You know, the cobbles, everything. And you know, the amount of races that are absolutely unbelievable. The races pretty much, you know, every week in Belgium, and it's a strong cycling scene. And you know, they all come out and support. And you know, I remember going to some events in Belgium, even the kind of kermesse scene. People are inviting you into the house to get changed and things like that, because you used to drive there or ride there, and you go into a kind of smoky cafe and get your number, sign on, one number, one frame number, one back number, and that was it. Away you went. Top 30 get prizes, and it was good.
There we go. Curse of the inflatable. We've seen this, I wouldn't say that often, but I think it's the Tour of Poland that, without a shadow of a doubt, is the race with the most inflatable signs on it. And that nearly came to grief there. Thankfully, nobody had a spill. But no, you're right, it's a real... I think for young riders going through the ranks, actually experiencing, whether you base yourself in Belgium or not, experiencing Belgium racing is vitally important. It might not be racing that you particularly like, for example, especially if you're a lighter rider who prefers the climbs, but in terms of improving your skill set as a rider, I think it's a vital component. And we all race. We weren't specialists in the wind, riding in the wind, but to go to Belgium, you learn where to place yourself, you learn how to measure your effort, and you learn how to suffer as well in the wind.
If you can ride and race in Belgium, stay near the front in races, then you can race anywhere. And like you say, Matt, it's you know, obviously I encourage people to go to Belgium. We've got Dan Payton in the front, and he's raced in Belgium for so many years, and I wouldn't say he's totally suited to riding in Belgium, but he's learned. He's learned, you know, his apprenticeship of, you know, how to place yourself, when to move up, and you know, even talking to riders that have ridden many, you know, ex-pros that have ridden many races, and you know, obviously the Tour of Flanders is coming up, but sometimes outsiders, I say outsiders outside the kind of Belgian scene, it takes them quite a few years. And I was speaking to Rolf Aldag just the other day, and he said it took him about 8 years to get his head round the Tour of Flanders. He just raced he just raced everywhere during the race, and it's making efforts and knowing when to recover, making efforts, and it took him a long period of time to understand the race and how the race runs.
And it's also important, I mean, this great camera shot here, you can just see spots of rain on the lens, but at just the sort of the road surface, you know, you have these concrete slabs, you've got the tarmac strips. It's just it is absolutely unique, and of course very, very bleak indeed. You've got the trenches to the left-hand side, but primarily there's hardly any shelter. Very different countryside characteristics as opposed to France or the UK. Hardly any hedges, and that's what makes it so difficult. But the rider's now relaying to the left. That means the wind is coming from the left-hand side. A great split screen there. Still a fair bit of impetus. I think rather than trying to bring this break back at the moment, Nippo, Vini, Fantini in that orange and blue. happy to keep the pace high, but they won't want to bring this break back too early, of course, because it just opens the race back up again, Brian.
It will do. We've already seen it.
Potentially.
Yeah, we've already seen it today already. Small break, 2 riders went away, came back together. There's a flurry of attacks. We've seen Tinkoff were trying to get involved, Wanty group, but obviously there's teams. You have a team meeting and you say no breaks go unless if there's a rider from Wanty, they've got Roy Jans. If there's any Lotto NL Jumbo going on the breakaway, because they will all try to get in the breakaway so that their sprinter can have an easier day and they don't have to do as much work in the front. So there was a bit of racing, it's settled down, and we've got 7 leaders. The peloton predominantly has been led by Lotto NL Jumbo in the yellow. Vini Fantini in the orange have also been helping out. Some more teams getting involved, and I still believe that there's a lot of riders in this group, and a lot of teams in this group will be very happy with this situation. One team that will be very happy is the One Pro Cycling, the 2nd Division British team, because they've got a couple of decent sprinters. We've already seen Chris Opie. This is a sprint. It could you know, feature him, and they've got a rider in the break, so they don't have to do any work in the front. Exactly.
Just make sure their riders are well positioned, sheltered from the wind. I'd imagine, although I don't know the exact team strategy, just looking at the composition of the One Pro Cycling team, the 2 protected riders will be Chris Opie and I'd imagine Matt Goss, depending on how he's feeling. Not quite the rider he was a few years back, but you know, a change of scenery, a change of team.
But what you do need, Matt, you need someone with experience.
And that's certainly what he's got in spades, isn't it?
Yeah, he might not have the form at the moment, but certainly has experience. And you know, when you look at the team of One Pro Cycling, they have got some good riders in there. Chris Opie is one of them. We've got one rider, it's actually his birthday today, is Sam Williams. He's riding this race today, so it's his birthday, so happy birthday, Sam. He won't be listening, obviously, but his family might be listening, and his fans. Yeah, but Martin Mortensen, Sebastian Lander, so they've got some good guys that can finish, and I think Chris Opie could be their rider today, and it could be a good result. And you know, for a 2nd division or even a continental team to win this race, it's a scalp to take, and it's a good race to have.
No, definitely. You know, well, while we're on the subject of One Pro Cycling, I think they've had a great start to the year. This isn't such a great situation. A bit of a touch of wheels, no doubt, and this does happen from time to time. That's number 82. That's Giancomo Barlato of Nippo Vini Fantini. A couple of riders from Team Sky also down. Javier Zandio there, back on the move, and that's Gianni Moscon. Looks like he's got a nasty cut to his buttock there. He was the best finisher for Team Sky in the Knocker Cursor the other day. I think he was 8th or 9th in that particular race. The under 23 rider, 4th in the World Championships last year. Here's a slow motion replay of the incident. But Brian, you know, not a particularly stressful part of the course, but if you just, you know, let your concentration slip, it's so easy, because you know, we take it for granted. You know, the riders are riding within centimetres of each other's wheels, and this is something we see, you know, extremely often.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Moscon. As you said, he was the best finisher for Team Sky in Knocker Course. You can see it a little bit further up. One of the riders from CCC just kind of come over from that cobble section over, and it looked as if Moscon just got his wheels trapped in the middle of the road there, as we were you know, talking about. It's knowing how to ride, and I think Moscon is learning the hard way there, unfortunately. It
certainly was surprising that no other riders came back. Just hope that Moscon gets back in the mix, but it did look like quite a nasty cut, tearing through his Rafa shorts. Meanwhile, up ahead, with 34.4 kilometres to go, the breakaway still riding very smoothly. And here's one of the riders that was caught up in that crash, number 196, Frederick Robert of Krullen Vast Good Service. And the other rider there from CCC Brandy. And there's the 2 Sky riders just on the bumper of the car. And again, this is normal practice, Brian. If there are rules in relation to how much a rider can ride on the bumper of it, no, can basically tailgate a car, but when there's been crashes, there is from time to time a blind eye turn, depending of course on the UCI commissaires on duty.
Yeah, I would think that the commissaires might not be totally happy. You can't ride behind your car and pass other cars in the peloton, but you can ride behind your car when it's in the the convoy behind, but there's gaps in the convoy, and all the commissaire will be wanting to do is fill up the gaps as quickly as possible. The only thing you can't do is pass any other cars in peloton with your rider behind.
So there we go. There's the bunch being led through now. Strung out still, Nippo Vini Fantini. They really have been putting in a lot of work towards the back end of this race. There's the cultural centre, De Burg. 41 seconds is the lead. It is starting to come down now, slowly but surely. Next time across the finish line will be 2 laps to go. And there's the Twitter handle of the Napoleon Games Cycling Cup, for anybody interested in that.
I'm just looking at you know, the Vini Fantini team, and the 10 latest results this year doesn't really show that, you know, the a top sprinter. And you know, 9th in Knockrakers, you know, when there's other, you know, faster sprinters in here. So I'm just thinking why they're putting so much effort into chasing these 7 riders down, because it's only 36 seconds. So I would save their energy and try something in the last lap, rather than you know, still with 2 laps to go the next time they cross the finishing line.
I mean, we do see from time to time tactics that are very difficult to understand, to try and get the rationale behind, but clearly the team in orange from Italy happy to put resources at the head of affairs. Could it be, Brian? I mean, from time to time we do see, you know, you know, tactics involved in relation to bringing things back, but from time to time, if a team have had a series of bad results and miss a move, you do get director sportifs just making a point and making an impression on the riders. Okay, you've missed this break, we told you to get a man up there, therefore I'm going to put riders on the front, to almost teach them a kind of lesson. And that's not something we often hear about, but I know it does go on from time to time. It
does go on, but I would think you know, if the group got maybe 2 or 3 minutes, you would sacrifice and say, look, you're not in the race. But you know, the maximum they got was what, 58 seconds, so there's no real panic. And Lotto, NL, Jumbo and Sky were on the front. Okay, Sky have just you know, had a bit of an incident there with Musk on, but you know, they've still got options with you know, Andy Fenn. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I think the onus is really on the team in the front, and that's Lotto, NL, Jumbo. They have got the fastest man here. But then again, Roy Jans is very quick. But I think it was Roy Jans was beaten by Groenewegen end of last year in Paris, Brussels. So we'll have to wait and see how things develop. But you know, the riders at the back here, Timothy Dupont, a very good win in Knockrakers a couple of days ago, but a very different finish to and for today. It's flatter, it's faster. But that's very difficult finish in Knockrakers, slightly uphill on the cobblestones, and he just pulled it off from a very young Norwegian.
He certainly did, who is riding here today, number 213, and that's Christopher Halvorsen, only 19 years of age. But meanwhile, at the head of affairs, coming through the finish in Handzame, the village of Handzame. 2 laps to go now for the lead group, and Marcin Biloblowski of Poland and One Pro Cycling takes the breakthrough. Just on his wheel is Patton, Daniel Patton of the Wiggins team. And again, many of you familiar or not familiar with the Wiggins team. The name, of course, taken from the name. Well, it's Bradley Wiggins' team, the eponymously titled team, with the nucleus of which is the British Endurance Track Squad, many of whom, of course, were in action at the recent World Championships. A silver medal for them. Meanwhile, the riders plying their trade on the road. Napolitano, the Italian sprinter, also in the mix, looks like a bit of a bruiser. He does, very experienced veteran, riding on the 1-2 Group Gilbert team. So still lots of classy sprinters in this bunch. Through a few of the Wiggins riders there. Also caught side of the Bora Argon 18 team. They've got a very, very fast finisher amongst their number in the form of Scott Waits. We're just going to take another quick commercial break. Please don't go away. 29 kilometers to go in the 14th edition of the Handzame Classic. 7 riders out in front. The lead being eaten away by the peloton chasing behind. And the team of Gazprom Rasvelo now helping, assisting with the chase, joining forces with Team Sky and also with Lotto, NL Jumbo and Nippo Vini Fantini. And they really are eating into the lead of our breakaway now, who is still riding extremely well together. Let's just run through the composition of that breakaway. The team on the right, CCC Sprandi Polkowici of Poland, also now assisting with the chase to try and bring back our leaders. So just under 28 kilometers to go now in the Handzame Classic. You can just see the block formation. Tinkoff Saxo now, sorry, Tinkoff, formerly Tinkoff Saxo, of course, now riding at the front. And the team in the centre of your screen, CCC Sprandi Polkowici of Poland, and the team just moving up on the left-hand side on the outside in the primarily black kit with the red flashes. The German squad, Bora Argon 18, very strong squad here. Left it quite late. And again, Brian, we talk about resources in races like this and waiting and waiting. And you know, a lot of teams will leave it quite late to chase, especially if there's other teams willing to ride on the front. You might as well just sit back and let the other teams work.
Yeah, you can take that risk as well. You know, the nerves go up, the orders come out from the cars behind, stay near the front, and it's very nervy when you've got a bunch this size going into the last 30 kilometres on a flat course, and it's not too windy around this circuit. The way the wind is blowing, that is only you know, short bits of kind of cross winds, but the cross winds are not blowing too hard, so it's a bit nervy. And as I said, there's a lot of movement when you get the road defects and people are kind of jumping around. But we're looking at the team from Gazprom, the team from Russia on the left-hand side in the blue, just trying to work out why they are riding at front. We said that about Nipo Vini Fantini, but what I will say is it's if you've got the numbers, it's a lot easier, it's a lot more relaxed to ride on the front than actually ride in the group, because as it is a bit nervy and crashes can happen.
Yeah, it is certainly the place to be. But it was interesting to see Timothy Dupont, the winner of Nokko Kursa, clearly in very good form, riding in the primarily black kit of Verandas Willems, a team that's been around for a few years now. Yeah, but it's when you look through the roster of the Russian squad, Gazprom Velo, no out-and-out sprints that we can really identify. Several fast men, Roman Makin, perhaps one of their faster riders, but no real significant results of late.
Obviously they're riding at the front, thinking of a good placing today, and for a team like that to finish on the podium of a 1.1 race is good. And so we don't know what the goal is for each team, why they ride in the front. So many of the Etixx riders and the Lotto riders in the red just sitting down the back of the peloton. So there's a lot of hard racing to be done. Traditionally this finishes in a sprint. You can see some of the riders in the black with the red helmets on from Bora riding towards the front as well. So this breakaway is only 20 seconds down the road. Many riders coming to the front from Veranda Williams now in numbers, so they're looking to try and split this race up somewhat. They
certainly are. Really driving hard on the front. That wasn't just the look of somebody riding a steady tempo that was sustainable. That was a rider really giving it his all. Of course, the wind just does change direction. Pattern now rolling through for Wiggins. Him and Biablowski just rolling through now. Been riding on each other's wheel for quite a while, but look at the speed of Biablowski. Very powerful. Patton having to put in a bit of a surge to get to the back of the group. That change in pace. Biablowski, remember, took out a famous victory at World Tour level in the Tour of Poland last year, won the individual time trial there, and was a protagonist on a couple of the flatter stages. Perhaps a good move to stay with One Pro Cycling, a team he's familiar with, a setup he's very familiar with. But here we go, a real show of force from the men in black. Verandas Willems, Timothy Dupont, superb win the other day. Pretty much the entire squad on the front there, Brian, for the Belgian team.
Yeah, unfortunately that acceleration by Biablowski has put Dan Payton into
I thought he looked
trouble.
In a bit of difficulty
but the
there.
thing is, if I was Biablowski, I wouldn't be showing everybody how strong I am, and he's just showing everybody how strong he is. So the gap is just sitting under 20 seconds. A few teams coming towards the front. You can see Etixx have a man up there, Van Keursbroek, sitting there in Van Keursbroek. You wouldn't want him to go down the road in the last 5 kilometres or so. So the calm before the storm. The Veranda Williams second division team is up towards the front in the black. But it looks as if Biablowski is the only rider in the front that really wants to take this race on.
Well, he's gone through the hotspot sprint there and has carried on right through. The great shot of the flags flapping in the quite stiff breeze coming from the left-hand side. And Verandas Williams on this short climb of the Roidenberg. And there's Patton. That'll be him done for the day, but a good ride by the rider from Wiggins. Still trying to hold on. And again, Verandas Williams, the team just closely following them. In the orange and green is the Vasgoed service team. Again, they'll know these roads very well. All the riders in these Belgian teams. Remember, there's 13 continental Belgian teams in all. Not all of them riding this race, but these sorts of races are their bread and butter. That was the Wallonie-Bruxelles team in the really distinctive yellow and red kit riding through. But here's an illustration of the power of this rider. You said he wasn't going to show his hand. He looks like he's literally just ridden the rest of this breakaway off his wheel, and he's now fully committed, Ryan. Yeah,
he showed everybody how strong he was, and that's why nobody really wanted to work with him. And when he realised nobody wanted to work with him, he's got to do it all on his own. A couple of riders trying to come across to him now. He's just looking behind. There's still a long way to go, just under 25 kilometres now. They only have 30 seconds with more teams started getting involved with the chase now.
Yeah, real powerful display. Patton just about to be caught now, but a great ride from him. Still Vini Fantini on the front. If they put it to the right-hand side, Brian, it would split it in the wind, but he's just giving enough room, riding in the middle of the road, so just enough room for the riders who are going to assist in the pacemaking to roll through. But for the rest of the riders, a nasty little crosswind section there.
Yeah, it's not blowing strong enough to split the peloton. We've already seen this throughout this race. It was fast and furious earlier on today, but it's, you know, the whole peloton, apart from some few crash victims, peloton are pretty much all together now. So getting in well inside the last 25 kilometres, we look at this beautiful castle here, and it's surrounded by its moats. But the race will start to get faster and faster, a little bit nervy. So the big teams, the World Tour teams, will have to have a think about how they're going to get a result in today's race. They
certainly will. And here's the moment. Biablowski accelerated away, glancing over his shoulder. Now, it was a seated effort, and believe you me, I've raced against this rider on many, many occasions a few years back, and he is remarkably strong. Great to have in a breakaway with you. Always willing to do a turn on the front. Very powerful, but I think importantly, when you look at the style of this rider, very, very aerodynamic, and he's a very tall rider, manages to get very low frontally, and that's why he's so efficient. Yeah, he's got the power, and you know, he's not young anymore, 32-year-old, but it looks as if he's as strong as anybody these days, and very good time trialist as well. But you can just see the riders behind. They maybe thought he was just going for the you know, the points at the top of the climb. He kept it going. Very difficult rider to bring back, but 30 seconds is not enough, and you can see the group doing bit and bits behind, trying to bring him back, but just in the distance you see the peloton just coming into view. Yeah, there they are. As you said, Brian, this long straight road. Important for Biablowski just to pace this effort, but he's so willing to go on the attack. Clearly sensed that the impetus and the drive from that group was starting to fade, so took the points over the top and continued with the effort. A good strategy sometimes to continue. We saw it at Tirreno Adriatico, that spectacular stage where Peter Sagan attacked with the help of his team through the hotspot sprint and continued the break. It is a tactic that is employed sometimes, but with his lead now 28 seconds, it's going to be a tall order for him to stay away, but a very, very brave effort by the pole. And as we draw back, there we have the bunch all spread across the road. Probably be a headwind section here when you see this sort of formation. Still Verandas Williams on the left-hand side in the black, the team in the blue in the centre. That's Gazprom Grosvelo. Last year they had primarily red kit, changed to blue, and now they moved up to pro continental level. A couple of deft little bunny hops on the right-hand side from a couple of riders from Tinkoff, and also in the white, the Stolting service group moving up too. They've got a couple of fast men on board. But with 22 Ks to go, fair play to Marcin Biablowski, still holding a half a minute lead. And the bunch really, really picking up the pace now. But it is looking like we are going to be faced with another bunch sprint. But Marcin Biablowski is certainly going to try to change the form book today. We're going to take our final commercial break before we head in to the back end of this race. Welcome back to the last 20 kilometers of the Handzame Classic. And at the moment, the rider on your screen from One Pro Cycling is Marcin Białkowski of Poland, the 32-year-old, extremely good time trialist. He likes riding solo, very capable of riding solo, spent the vast majority of his career based in the UK, well, still with, of course, a UK-based team, but now given the opportunity to race at the highest level. Took a World Tour victory last year in the Tour of Poland individual time trial, rode very well in the World Championships as well in the time trial there, but not a man you want to give too much leeway to. But he's holding steady, Brian, 29 seconds. For a rider on their own at this stage of the race, regardless if he gets caught or not, it just shows how powerful he is to maintain the same effort, the same pace as a bunch of riders who are swapping turns at the front.
Yeah, it's a big effort. Still a long way to go yet on your own. It's not as if he's going to get any turn from anybody. So he's on his own, which we know in the past that he's very good at. Very good time trialist, but it's very difficult to keep marauding peloton off with only about 30 seconds advantage. He's doing a pile of good for the publicity of this team, and you know, it's nice for the guys to sit behind. They don't have to chase. They just have to kind of ride near the front. As long as Marcin can stay away, then the less work they have to do.
You're certainly right. They've got some good sprinters in the team, so a very, very shrewd tactic. The director sportif of One Pro Cycling in the team car is Phil West. Came across from British Cycling to lend his expertise. Matt Winston, the other director sportif of that squad too. He's got to be a little bit careful, Ray. I get so nervous when I see spots of rain on the screen, Brian. Just as an ex-rider, you know what it's like when the rain just starts to fall, when the roads are dry. You've got to be so careful on these shiny corners. A great split screen here. Marcin Białkowski just ploughing that lonely furrow out ahead. As you said, Brian, nobody to share the pacemaking with. And there's that rather sketchy right-hander across those white lines. Again, not the place to be at the back of the bunch. You get that whiplash effect, especially when it starts to rain, because you need to brake earlier and you're really slowing down. But meanwhile, 15 seconds up the road is the head of the peloton, and you get that real snap whiplash effect at the back of the bunch.
Yeah, maybe not the place to be inside the last 20 kilometres. We see a couple of the Wiggins riders there, but you can just see the speed is starting to increase somewhat, and Białkowski's gap coming down, 21 seconds now, but it's been a brave effort. Possibly, you know, he could have maybe have got some more help instead of going for so long from some of the others, but you don't know what's going through the riders' heads. They decide, well, it's time to go. But unfortunately for him, it's still a long way to go. Just under 18 kilometres now. He's got 21 seconds. The bunch are starting to waken up to the fact that this is going to be a bunch sprint today. They
certainly are. His lead, not exactly tumbling, but being steadily reduced as he tries to get as low as he can frontally on the bike, just to make himself that little bit more efficient, to maximise the power that he's putting through the bike. So 21 seconds holding steady at the moment, and the rain just starting to fall. But the finish here, Brian, not overly technical. The riders have had, of course, they will have three opportunities to see the finale, which is always a good thing. They'll know what the wind direction is. They'll know when, well, they'll think they'll know when to time their effort, especially riders who have done this this race before. But a real good study of stylish and strong riding there, and still Verandas Williams in the black on the front with the Gazprom Russ Velo to give them their full title assisting, and CCC's Brandy also there. So Tinkoff Saxo now take it up. Brian, let's talk about some of the sprinters from the World Tour team that we're going to be looking at today. We haven't seen much at all of Etixx-QuickStep. They've got Gianni Meersman there. They've got Kaiser as well, of course. Two very, very fast riders indeed. Lukas Wisniewski, Martin Velits, Guillaume van Kielsbroek, David Martinelli and Nicholas Mays also there. So if they want to get the lead out right, they can. But interesting, they're not assisting with the chase. We know they didn't have anybody in the move. There's only one rider out in front, but Etixx leaving it very late. No sign of the red jerseys of Lotto Soudal. They've got, I think, Tosh van der Sande is going to be their protected rider. Tinkoff putting riders near the front, and we know they're going to be looking after. They've got two options, have Tinkoff in the fluoro yellow kit. That's Erik Baska, the neo-pro from Slovakia, 22 years of age, very, very fast finisher indeed. and Michael Kolar. But what other riders are we looking for, Brian, or looking to try and take this win from the World Tour squads?
Oh, Team Sky, I've got Danny Van Poppel. Danny Van Poppel, obviously one of his first races back after I think it was illness or injury. You know, there's other race riders like Roy Jans. He's got Napolitano for Wanty Group Gobert. But looking down, there are some fast guys. We've already mentioned Chris Opie from One Pro Cycling. They don't have to do any work with Marcin down the road. So the World Tour teams are sitting back. So bell goes, 1 lap to go. 16 kilometres, or just under 16 kilometres with a 20-second advantage, with this massive peloton starting to get organised at the front.
Yeah, an extremely brave effort by Marcin Biloblowski. He takes the belt, and in a couple of seconds' time, the rampaging peloton will do the same, led across by Tinkoff. And the team just riding to their right was Wallonie-Bruxelles, the other Belgian continental team in that yellow and a red kit. An interesting Bora Argon 18, the German squad in the black. Oh, we're talking about German teams. It's great on the grapevine, isn't it, Brian, to hear that the Deutschland Tour looks like it's going to be back on the calendar. Not confirmed whether it's going to be 2017 or 2018, but German cycling is definitely on the up, and it's good to hear that we could see that national tour returning. No,
it's very good news for German cycling, and you know, obviously having this team Stolting, and just noticed that Gerald Seelig was kind of moving his elbows aloud, pushing riders out the way to try and stay near the front. And you know, they've got a very good young sprinter, Michael Carbell, in their ranks, and you know, he's fast enough to take on some of the best. But I still think that the fastest man on paper is Dylan Groenewegen of Lotto NL Jumbo. But in this sort of field, if you don't have the right lead out, then he could be boxed in, and you know, anything can happen. So there's definitely a lot of teams sitting back and waiting. You know, over the next climb, I would think that on this lap, on the last lap, on that climb, I think Etixx would be a team that would be trying to manoeuvre something, because they've got enough strong riders to clip off the front. They've also got some fast riders, which you've mentioned, Gianni Meersman, Kajsa, Mace, all good sprinters. But somebody like Van Keursbroek or Wisniewski can possibly clip off. So they're all looking at different things. You see the red helmets and the black of you know, Bora Aragon. They've got different options as well. So it's going to be furious racing. But you know, total respect to Chris Bokmans here, bringing Tosh van der Sande right up towards the front. This is a man that is his first race back after a dreadful crash he had just at the back end of last year. Great to see him at the front of the race today. No, it certainly is, and I think everybody watching will be equally as happy as we are with that little neckerchief there. Looks pretty strong. Before we came on air, we had some footage from our Belgian host of Chris Bokmans training, running in the sand, going through his the recuperation process. There was an awful stack up, big pile up at last year's Vuelta. It was life-threatening, very, very nasty crash. But to see him racing in a period, within a period of 6 months, is absolutely fantastic. And to be riding at the front as well is even better. So great to see. And young Tosh van der Sande, a real good all-round rider. He can finish extremely strongly. That's Martin Wynants just drifting back as we head into the last few kilometres of this race. A few Wiggins riders just on the back there as well. Again, not necessarily the place to be, but we've seen, although the wind is blowing slightly, we haven't seen the bunch split into echelons at all, and parts of this circuit. I was just wondering why the riders were sat at the back there, and obviously Groenewegen was, I said, you've got a potential winner, and surely you've not done enough riding at the front to be sitting at the back now. They've got 8 riders here. They've got one of the fastest guys, and obviously, you know, we never got that information, but it does look as if Groenewegen had a puncture there, so that's why they've been sitting at the back. Now, with 13 kilometres to go, they have to try and get to the front, so that's where the real danger is. Yep, they are moving just up the outside. And Brian, sprinting in this sort of race, given you've got such, I wouldn't say a disparity, but such a range of ability, you know, from World Tour through to Pro Continental. We'll talk about it in a minute, but again, a real different proposition.
So just 12.5 Ks to go for this man out in front. His lead now a slender 10 seconds. There's the bunch behind, sprawled across the road. But despite that, little glance over his shoulder, I know that this man will not give up until the very, very last. Such a tenacious, aggressive, stylish rider. Always gives his all. Can time trial well, can ride criteriums extremely well, can climb. He's a former winner of the Unpost Ras over in Ireland, the stage race, so can ride extremely well on all terrains, but a very efficient rider as well. But it looks like, Brian, his days are numbered because the bunch really bearing down on him now. Yeah,
not good. 10 seconds now, and you know, he did try. He was in the original 7-man breakaway, but unfortunately it's very difficult on your own to hold off this peloton. We know that Bora Aragon are here in numbers, and you know, they've got a very good team here as well. Zach Dempster, one of the, you know, I think one of the best lead-out guys there is in positioning. Very shrewd Australian rider they've got, and they've got options with Michael Schwarzman, Ralph Machka, and also Scott Wexham. I'll be interested to see who they actually go with today, because Scott likes maybe a little bit of a harder sprint. But again, it's a team from Vini Fantini, the team in the orange shoulders that have come to the front. Still a long way to go. It's I wouldn't be expending too much energy with 12 kilometers to go, trying to keep your rider as close to the front as possible, because you only have to relax a little bit, and then you're at the back.
You're right, and you said you're using your troops up, but there you go. The final kiss to the camera there for Marcin Bialobloski. We've seen him do that before. He's so aggressive. He's been in that many breakaways that we've had the pleasure of commentating on Eurosport. But it's he is now reabsorbed by the peloton, and the team in blue of Gazprom, Rosvelo lead the bunch. 4 riders on the front in the arrowhead formation. Here is the moment that Marcin Bialobloski gave a kiss to the Eurosport family, and to his relatives at home, no doubt, and perhaps to the team car. And now Rome Pot on the front, Team Orangi. They've got a very, very interesting young sprinter amongst their number in the form of André Luge, 20 years of age. They've also got Reiner Honig, Tim Kirchhoff, Wesley Kreder. The 2 Kreders in that team, but I think their protected sprint is going to be Luge.
They're just making a big effort to do 500 metres in the front, and already they've lost one of the riders. They made that effort, brought the riders towards the front, and now they're propped on the front. Okay, a good position as we start heading towards this final climb. You can see the riders in the fluorescent orange. Maybe you're looking to do something on this climb, but it was all about position. Napolitano in the Wanty Group Gubel with the pink handlebars. He's a very fast finisher, but he's aging and maybe not as fast as some of the other younger guys. But on the left-hand side, you can see the tall figure of Van Kersbroek, and he's been looking the last previous lap as well to see if there's a possibility of doing something.
Well, Tinkoff now take it up at the front. They're setting that tempo, just putting it in into the left-hand side to make it harder for the riders to move up. Jay McCarthy also just sat second wheel, took a great stage win at the Tour Down Under earlier in the year's first World Tour victory. The McCarthy, good on an uphill sprint.
You what, Matt, he's really looking after that young sprinter behind him. McCarthy keeps on looking behind, make sure he's right up there towards the front, so it does look as if Erik Baska is their man, and that's the rider that's sitting third wheel at the moment. I
think it's Nikolai Trusov who sat on the front at the moment, driving hard. As you said, they've got 2 options, Kolar and Baska, but the team have announced that they're the 2 protected riders for this particular day. But as you say, Etixx-QuickStep
have attacking the left.
It looks like from one of the Rome Pot riders, or is it one of the... No, it looks like one of the Nippo Vini Fantini riders just going clear. And it's McCarthy from Tinkoff just trying to bridge across. Remember, this is the only climb on the Finnish circuit, the Roidenberg, and the points are taken. McCarthy looks over his shoulder, and a rider from Gazprom takes third across the line, and then Verandas Williams in the black, and then the rest of the peloton follow in their wake. An interesting little move. McCarthy happy to work here, which is pretty interesting. It means that the team behind don't have to chase, and McCarthy, a very, very capable rider indeed from a small break.
Yeah, he's watching for it, and you know, it doesn't surprise me. I was thinking that someone was going to try that small climb, but You know, I was thinking more of the, you know, Etixx or maybe Lotto Soudal, but they're quite content and sitting in the bunch. One of the Gazprom Roosevelt riders in the blue never made it, but it's Veranda Williams in the black pulling it all back together again.
Yep, Veranda's just driving hard. They've had a great week. Victory in the Knocker Cursor on Wednesday in the form of Timothy Dupont. So clearly in good form. Great morale for one of the smaller teams as well to take, you know, World Tour and Pro Continental scalps, Brian. I mean, the field at Knocker Cursor very similar to the field here, not exactly the same, but for Anders Williams to take a victory there is clearly giving the team a hell of a lot of confidence. And as you can see, the whole squad now on the front of the bunch. Yeah,
it's that's all it is, confidence, and it's going to be very difficult to pull it off, but you can see Van Keursberg starting to think. I was thinking he was going to go on that previous climb, but you can just see as soon as he goes, one of the Stoetling riders tries to go across to him. So when you see these riders from Etixx, especially a rider as strong as that, you want to be on him as soon as he goes, because it's going to hurt going across to him. But now you can see plenty of orange jerseys towards the front in Vini Fantini.
Yeah, there's definitely two riders from Vini Fantini. It's very easy to make the mistake. Well, the kit that clashes the most is the Vini Fantini kit and also the Roompot Orange Peloton kit, the Pro Continental Dutch team. They've got a rider just sat on the wheel of Van Keursberg. He's in the blue for Etixx-QuickStep. So a real sharp acceleration. Fair play to Vini Fantini today. Interesting. They've been riding on the front, but still happy to put riders clear in the break, but really making this finale extremely difficult. McCarthy there sat second wheel in the full grey leg warmers, not happy to work. And Van Keursberg also just easing off, and the bunch really starting to string out now under the impetus of these attacks.
Just waiting for Van Keursberg to go over the top there. He's not the fastest of sprinters, but you know, give him a few hundred yards and he's down the road. And you know, to see him win already this year for the first time in many years, he's obviously got a bit of confidence, but he doesn't want it to be a sprint finish. But the riders in black behind Verandas Williams absolutely do. You can see the red jerseys of Lotto Soudal again in the mix. So we're 7.5 kilometres to go. 5 riders trying to clip off, but it does look as if it's going to be a traditional burn sprint here.
It does. These riders happy to relay on the front, but of course Van Keursberg being in the front means that Etixx-QuickStep can just lay off and leave the lead-out train till very, very late indeed. Perhaps Verandas Williams, wouldn't say they're overconfident. They're buoyed by the success they had in the week with the Timothy Dupont's victory, but perhaps doing a little bit too much. Still no sign of Etixx, but now another counter-attack from Stoelting Service Group. Jay McCarthy marking that move as well. Gazprom again in the blue, very, very prominent at the head of affairs. And the Baska service team also there in that multicoloured kit with the orange, grey and green. And now this is a little bit of a headwind section. As you can just see, the bunch spread across the road, and it looks like one of the riders from CCC, Sprandi Polkovic Brian, is attacking on the right-hand side.
Yeah, sometimes when you're moving up, you get to the front of the peloton, you get a little bit excited, bang, you're down the road, and you can just see this David Boucher towards the front for that the Creelan team. Sibel Sibon is it, the team. So he's a very experienced rider coming from France de Joux last year, so he's just riding at the front of the peloton, keeping his young sprinter out the way. But CCC in the front at the moment by only a matter of 20 metres, so a bunch sprint coming up in just over 6 kilometres time.
Oh, the rider from Sprandi, his tenure on the front, only a very brief one. He is about to be reabsorbed as the bunch head in to the final 6 kilometres of the Handzame Classic. Just under 6 kilometres to go now. It's looked like it's going to be heading for a bunch sprint. Some argy-bargy there. Andrew Fenn just on the left-hand side.
He pushed him onto the wheel.
Team Scott, that was
he pushed the rider over onto Andy Fenn's wheel there. So I can understand that. You shouldn't be pushing riders at this. It's enough with them jumping between the gap in the middle, but you can just see in Napolitano, he's following Andy Fenn's wheel. He thinks that obviously that's going to be a good lead out for him. But Bora coming up on the right-hand side. Yuri Sagan is there for Tinkoff, looking after their young sprinter. We've already mentioned him, Erik Baska. But fortunately, if you're at the back now, there's absolutely no chance for you getting through this peloton towards the front now.
It certainly isn't. Some riders opting for the pavement. I know a few A few of the riders from the field have opted for the pavement. There's also a couple of club riders there, but one of the riders from Wallonie-Bruxelles caught in the wind on the left-hand side. And again, very difficult to move up when the pace is this high. And now we see Lotto NL Jumbo on the right-hand side in that waspish kit. The black and yellow. Look out for Dylan Groenewegen, very, very talented young sprinter from the Netherlands, 22 years of age, already with a fine victory. He was third in Nokkerkurs earlier in the week on Wednesday. So he is definitely the protected sprinter for them. Still Gazprom in the middle. That rider, I recognise that rider, but he's been spending a lot of time in the wind. And there's Juraj Sagan just moving up. He's still got Jay McCarthy on his world. And now for the first time in number, Bora Argon 18 in that black and red. And Lotto NL Jumbo. Now Etixx-QuickStep, Brian, take it up. They've left it very, very late, but they have the horsepower now to possibly take it right through to the finish.
Yeah, they certainly have. Kajsa right at the front there, probably trying to look after Meersman. So 4 riders towards the front. So you've got Kajsa, the tallest rider in third place is Mace. I'm trying to see just behind, Wisniewski is there. I'm trying to see who the second rider is. Ilya Kajsa, it could be Meersman right up there, so they'll swap around. But just behind them, you see the yellow jerseys of Lotto NL Jumbo, and also Tosh van der Sande is right up towards the front. But yeah, it's battle stations at the moment for position.
It certainly is, and after leading for so long, Anders Williams now trying to move up on the left-hand side, but loads of teams moving up this rotating edge of the peloton. It's so easy to get swamped. Timing absolutely vital at this stage of the race. But remember, not an overly technical running. We have around a kilometres time with 2.5 Ks to go. Then a gentle meandering finish straight that all of these riders would seem, but pretty nervy now. Riders taking to the pavement as Christian Knees, the tall rider from Germany on the right-hand side for Team Sky. Gazprom now take it up at the front. For the moment, Etixx-QuickStep starting to get swamped. This is pretty nervous times heading into the last 3K,
Yeah, I was
Brian.
just saying that, toe-curling moments, but Gazprom of the Russian team at the front in the blue, but also a good job by some of the other riders to keep their leader right up, or their sprinter right up towards the front. So nervy moments for everybody, and a bit of a lottery.
Well, this right-hander now will really thin things out. It is definitely the place to be. You want to be in the first 15 or 20 riders now, but Gazprom really driving hard on the front now. The newly promoted Pro Continental team from Russia really, really taking things up. Just behind in the black of Anders Williams. Remember, Timothy Dupont won a couple of days ago. He's their protected rider for today. Where are the riders from Etixx-QuickStep? A couple of riders from the Joker team of Norway also moving up. Remember, they've got Kristoffer Halvorsen, the young 19-year-old sprint sensation in the mix. 2.5 Ks to go, Brian. This is going to be an absolutely scintillating sprint to the finish.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult with only having 2 riders for the last 2.4 kilometres, which means the rider in the front has to do 2 kilometres on the front, and he quickly swings off and an attack immediately on the right-hand side. But it's going to come down to a bunch sprint, but there's no dominant team at the front of this race. There's
no dominant team at all. A look over the shoulder, very interesting move here from this rider. Try and zoom in on his number. But it's Anders Williams looking over the shoulder for assistance. Team Sky moving up on the inside in that familiar black and blue kit. 2 kilometres to go now. A very good move here by this rider. Keeps glancing over his shoulder. It's going to be very difficult to stay away. 1.9 Ks to go now. Which is going to be the team to take things up at the front? The whole peloton now, Brian, spread across the road.
Yeah, they're just waiting in anticipation. You can see them just sitting and back and waiting for this rider to die in front of them. The red jerseys of Lotto Soudal on the left-hand side, DB leading that charge. In the middle, you've got Tinkoff. Still a couple of riders right up there, second and third for Etixx, but the rider, no sooner as he goes down the road, he's back into the peloton with his legs all ballooned.
Well, that rider was Matthias Krizek of Team Roth. His day, he's now done a good attack from him, but the 2 teams on the front now. That's Lotto Soudal in the red. On the right-hand side, Etixx-QuickStep. They're the 2 teams, 2 World Tour teams with protected sprinters. Tosh van der Sande in the centre of your screen, just tucked away out of the wind. Dylan Groenewegen also in the mix there. Number 37 is Robert Wagner, himself a very good finisher, making sure he's looking after the interests of Groenewegen. And now Etixx-QuickStep lead into the last 1,400 metres of this race. Who is going to take victory in the 14th edition of the Handzame Classic? It looks like Lotto NL Jumbo now taking up the road meanders slowly to the left. Who is going to take this up? Lotto NL Jumbo now leading. Groenewegen sat there in second wheel. This is going to be very, very early indeed. The wind coming from the right-hand side. So Lotto NL Jumbo really putting it into the gutter now. Now the sprint opens up. Groenewegen just sat behind Van Kulsbroek now, but on the, it looks like on the inside, Gianni Meersman. Meersman has to go up the inside. But again, it's Groenewegen in the center, but on the right-hand side for Tinkoff. Is the rider from Tinkoff going to take this? It looks like he is. The rider from Tinkoff in the center of your screen. Tinkoff take the victory. It looks like it was Baska. We'll get confirmation of that. Erik Baska, we knew he was going to be protected. Fine, fine performance there from the 22-year-old Slovakian of Tinkoff. What a display of sprinting prowess. Perfectly timed his sprint to come round the rider from the Netherlands, Dylan Groenewegen. Baska takes the win in the Handzame Classic. Well, there we go. We tipped him at the top. Tinkoff said he was their protected rider. Just take us through this slow-mo.
Led this out. You can just see Meersman was trapped in the left-hand side. He isn't fast in these type of finishes, but Baska came round Groenewegen. It's probably about 100 metres to go. I thought Groenewegen had this, but that young man just came through with sheer power. And you can see Meersman, he manages to get a top 3 place in the left-hand side, but he likes a bit of a harder finish. But I had thought that this had Groenewegen written all over him, but this man here shows his muscles, and he muscled his way past Groenewegen and takes a well-deserved victory.
Well, that would be a very popular victory within the team. He was the protected rider. It's his first year with the team. So as a stagiaire, it's not very often you see neopros taking scalps like that. But Groenewegen went a little bit early, but perfect timing. Congratulations from his teammates. A superb win, his biggest win by a long, long way. He was the European road champion, or the under-23 European road champion. The University Championships back last year. But again, to take those scalps, absolutely fantastic display of sprinting and teamwork by Tinkoff. So the young Slovakian just preparing himself now for the podium. And after that display, I don't think it would be the last time, we see this young man on the podium. Again, a fantastic finale to this race. And for yet another year, the Handzame Classic ends in a big bunch sprint. But rewind to the top of the day, all the way back to the outskirts of Ostend and Bredene. A very, very fast start. The race snaked along the coastline. And again, the picture, well, the rider just on your inside there was Chris Buckmans making his return to racing. But this was the main break of the day. We did have 2 previous animators, Tom de Rent of Wanty Group Goubert and Gijs van Hoek of Topsport Vlaanderen. They were mocked up to be replaced by this group. Marcin Biloblowski of One Pro Cycling leading the group through on the first of 3 finishing circuits. Remember the race, 199 kilometres in length. The last 3 finishing circuits are 15.82 kilometres. There were a couple of crashes. Gianni Meersman, one of the victims from Team Sky. He finished well in the sprint at Nokkerkurse, but unfortunately came to grief with about 35 k's to go. And that was the moment one of the riders from CCC Sprandi, looks like he got his front wheel caught in one of the grooves in the road, which can happen so often in Belgium, given the type of road surfaces that we had. A very uneven road surface, big concrete slabs laid down, but Moscon, that might have affected his chances. We did know that he made it back, got back on the bumper. A nasty gash to his left buttock. But meanwhile, the breakaway rolled through and fast forward straight to the finish. There's Erik Baska. And there it is again. A fantastic time sprint by Baska, well clear of Dylan Groenewegen. I think last year's winner, Gianni Meersman, came through on the inside to just about snatch 3rd place. But again, Slovakia producing some pretty decent riders over the last few years, Brian, but good to see, especially from a neo-pro. And Tinkoff saying in their press releases that this was the opportunity for this young rider to shine, and he's perfectly taken his opportunity. So there we go. We'll try and get to the podium when we can. But the Belgian hero of the day, although not placed in the race, Chris Buckmans, it is, I know we've been focusing a lot on this man, but it is a real story. This was a man that was facing possibly, well, it was a nasty crash that happened in the Vuelta last year, and it was seriously ill in hospital, but to see him back within 6 months is a big, big story, not just for Belgian cycling, but for cycling in general. So good to see him back in the mix and looking after his teammates. But that's Dylan Groenewegen. He was third in Nokkerkurse, 1 step higher today, second. It isn't to be for him, but again, a big future. Again, he is only 22 years of age, the same age as the winner, Erik Baska, and there is confirmation of the result. Erik Baska of Tinkoff in first place, Dylan Groenewegen of the Netherlands in second for Team Lotto and El Jumbo, and rounding out the podium, Gianni Meersman of Belgium and Etixx-QuickStep. Also up there for Top Sport, Bert van Lerbergen. André Luij, the young rider that we suggested could be up in the mix from the Netherlands. Watch out for him in the future. Only 20 years of age. So a real outing for some future sprint stars. So a really exciting edition of the Handzame Classic today. Well, as the drizzle descends on the village of Handzame in West Flanders, one rider who won't notice the drizzle is going to be Erik Baska. Erik Baska basking, in fact, in the glory of his first pro win. Just getting himself ready for his first step onto the podium and in the limelight. There's some pretty emotional scenes there. That's Buckmans. It looks like, don't know who that person is, either a fan or a relative. It just shows, I think it is a genuine story here, Brian, isn't it, of Buckmans returning to racing. So the Chris Buckmans fan club, they're in force. But aside from the extremely happy Chris Buckmans story, it's about this young rider from Slovakia. Erik Baska of Tinkoff, 22 years of age, was for the very first time the protected rider in the team and delivered an absolutely perfect sprint to take win here in front of Groenewegen, who looks rather disappointed there on the left-hand side. And last year's winner, Gianni Meersman. Two scalps that will live long in the memory of this young rider, that is for sure. I would imagine that Mr. Oleg Tinkoff will be very, very happy indeed with his young liege. Just showing the depth in this squad. So Tinkoff rode extremely well today, just looking after this rider. Michael Gogol, Michael Kolar, Jay McCarthy marshalling those moves in the finale. And we're going to try and get a word from young Erik Baska here.
I have to say just a big thank you to my team, to my sport directors for this big chance, an opportunity that I should be a leader for this race, and also to my teammates for incredible job.
Can you describe your sprint? How did you do it?
My teammates bring me to, I don't know, 500 meters before the finish. I don't know, around 10th position, and I was behind Etixx riders. So I had really good position for a sprint, and yes, I had really good legs.
You're really happy with this win, I can see.
Yes, of course, a lot.
Is Peter Sagan an example for you? You're Slovakian too?
Yes, of course, world champion. What can I say?
I reckon you want to be a world champion one day too?
Of course. It's the biggest thing for me, I think.
Do you think he will win tomorrow, Peter?
I think so. Yes, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, there we go. Not too much pressure there for Peter Sagan, but I've no doubt Peter Sagan, feet up in the hotel in Italy, will be absolutely delighted with that win from the young rider. What a future Erik Baska has, and what a display of sprinting that was.